Are you going to accept Mrs. Jones's offer to be in honor classes?
Are you kidding? I can see it right now. All of my friends talking about me and calling me a nerd.
I know the feeling. They still call me stuck up because of the grades I get and the way I talk. That's why I dropped out of honors classes.
I think it's harder on the brothers myself. If you can't fight, play ball, or get high, you're just not with it.
Well, I'm not trying to compare, but sisters are vicious.
Listen, why don't we cut ninth period geometry? You want to go to the park?
Word, let's get out of here right now.
All right, let's go.
So this here is a skit from Dr. Jawanza Junkufu's presentation on peer pressure from the Black peer group. So what is peer pressure? Peer pressure is when you have a person who identifies or associates with a certain group, and that group has certain practices, standards, values, to which the person feels pressured to conform to if they want to fit in and be accepted. And so peer pressure is a tool. And it's a tool that can be used for or against someone. So for example, we have the Black peer group. And the Black peer group, just like any other peer group, has its values, its standards, and its way that it does things, and its norms. And some of those norms are wanting to dress a certain way, want to be fly, sex, drugs, rapping, dancing, being able to fight, things of that nature. And we have to understand that this is not a good or a bad thing. It's just a thing. But it is a tool that could hinder someone if that's not the thing that you're looking for. And so we see, for example, in the skit with the teens, that they have the ability to make it into honors classes. But because of the peer pressure, pressuring them to conform into something that is other than making it into the honors class, they reduce themselves and fall under the pressure of their peers, and so it doesn't allow them to elevate themselves in the academic arena. And most of us know that academics is not something that is valued within the in crowd of the Black peer group.
I'm a consultant across the country in a program titled Closing the Gap between white and black students. The average white European child in our California test is scoring at the 60th percentile. The average black African-American child is scoring at 30th percentile. Now, we believe there are 5 major reasons for this gap. One reason has to deal with teacher expectations. There are many teachers who lower expectations for black students. Another reason for this gap lies in parental involvement. There are some parents that are not involved and supportive of their children's education. Another reason has to deal with student self-esteem. There are many children that do not feel good about themselves, that do not like the way they look. Another reason for this gap lies in the curriculum. It's not motivating, it's not relevant, and also learning style. Children learn in different ways, and many teachers give left brain lesson plans for large numbers of right brain thinking students. But the major reason, or one of the reasons we're going to look at today for this gap, lies in peer pressure. There are 5 major reasons for this gap: teacher expectations, parental involvement, student self-esteem, the curriculum, and peer pressure. And we wanted you to be with us today because we want to look at the impact of peer pressure on academic achievement. What we're getting at is that it's very possible for parents to be doing their job, for teachers to be doing their job, and it all go for naught because the black peer group is more concerned about what kind of gym shoes or sneakers they wear, what kind of clothes they wear, how well they dance, fight, and play basketball.
So this presentation was done in 1988. And this certainly was the same case when I went to high school from 2001 to 2005. And I went to 4 different high schools. And it's really 6 if you want to be technical, because I went to 2 of those high schools twice. And in each one of those high schools, I was popular. I was in the in crowd. And so we know exactly what it takes to be into the in crowd in the black peer group. One of the ways that someone can get into the in crowd of the black peer group is being able to fight. And we know this already. Anyone who's went to schools with black folks, if you can fight, that raises your social status. And I went to Western High School, which is in Las Vegas. It's in the inner city. And Vegas is not known for its inner city activity because it's a tourist place. But it has an inner city just like any other major city. And it's ruthless. Western High School is the worst, absolute worst high school you can go to in Las Vegas. And that high school has a reputation for fighting and shooting. If we go into YouTube right now, if you just type in Western High School Las Vegas, that's probably going to be one of the first things that you see when it pops up. fighting or shooting. And so at Western High School, everybody fights. The nerds fight, the janitors fight, the skateboarders fight. Everyone has to fight in that school. And so fighting raises your social status. I even had to fight at that high school. I got kicked out of Western High School for fighting. And it's not something that I'm proud about at all, but it's just something that everybody does at that high school. And that's something that raises the social status of people, right? Within the black peer group more specifically, if you can fight. Matter of fact, and I got kicked out and I had to go to another high school. The other high school, there was this dude named K.O. He was a guy from the projects. He's in school, at the end of school, fighting two girls, beating both of them up. It raised his social status, right? Oh, K.O. can fight. It didn't matter if he was fighting girls or not. He beat up two girls. That elevated his social status within the black peer group, right? So that's one way that you can be popular within the black peer group. Another way that you can be popular is if someone who gets a lot of girls. That's another one that elevates your social status. All right. Another way that you can be popular within the black peer group is if someone who dresses nice. One of the schools I went to, you had a guy named Jason. He wasn't the greatest looking in the face for the guy. The girls didn't love him for that, but they did love him because he wore a lot of nice clothes. He had the chains. He had all the latest Jordans. He had the full thing. And there's multiple guys who were like that I knew. They had the full thing as far as the dress. They called it gear back in there. Oh, he has gear. That's what they called it at that time. That's another way that you could be popular within the black peer group. Another way someone could get accepted into the black peer group is if you're able to run the jokes. That's one thing we used to do. In the beginning of school, everyone would crowd into the cafeterias. We'd all get in there, and as soon as someone starts looking at someone funny, you're checking out somebody's shoes funny, and you say a funny comment, the jokes start running. Before the first period began, by that time, it's done got so crazy it sounds like we're in a Roman Coliseum. Everyone's laughing and going crazy. We're not coming in there before school talking about what we studied last night. That's not what we were doing. We were running the jokes. And in fact, after graduating high school, I had this girl write me on Facebook. And she told me that she was scared to come past the table that we were at because she knew that we were just running jokes on everybody. The whole little in crowd in there. So she would go all the way around. And after that, I was like, dang, man, I didn't realize that's the impact we were having on people, right? We were part of that group who was running jokes. This is another way you can get accepted into the black in crowd. Another way, if you were a gang member at Western High School, flooded with gang members. That was the in crowd, flooded with gang members. Doing that type of activity, that was what was reinforced. Right? So these are the types of things. And people know this. People understand it. So what does not get someone into the in crowd of the black peer group? Well, one of the things that won't get you there is coming in there talking about you have A's on a test. Coming in there talking about you're taking your classwork seriously and you're studying it after school. That's not going to move the needle one bit, right, within that peer group. Because they don't value that. Right? I know that because we didn't value that. So I can speak from absolute experience. Right? I didn't grow up in the middle class. I grew up poor according to American standards. Right? In the inner city. So in the inner city, that's where the black peer group is creating the in crowd and the norms for the rest of the black people. And in that particular in crowd, education is definitely not valued.
Is there anyone in this audience that has had a negative encounter with peer pressure, a situation where your peer group was not reinforcing academic achievement? Can anyone give some example of how their peer group was not encouraging them to do a good job in school? Anyone?
Yeah.
Judy?
I have an incident like in our class we have free bells, which is like a study hall. And some people who have study hall will ask other students who drive to school, like instead of studying for a test, to take them somewhere to get something to eat or whatever. And if they say no, then they'll say, well, you're a nerd for staying to study. You don't have to study. I mean, study tomorrow when you get home, or, you know.
And again, the person that had the study hall had the car. And they were trying to get that person to leave study and go get them something to eat?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else with an example where negative peer pressure did not reinforce academic achievement? Anyone else? An example like that? Where your friends did not encourage you to do a good job in school? Anyone else? With a situation where your peers did not reinforce academic achievement?
I have some peers that they do, but then again they don't. So it's sort of like.
Well, that's good. You have some that do and some that don't.
Some that do and some that don't. But
Describe
they don't
those
really,
that don't.
They don't really. It's not that they tell you don't go to school or something like that. But I have people who say, "Well, why don't you come over my house? And then we'll do so and so and so and so." And I'm like, "Well, I have to go to class because I have already missed so many days out of class." And it's like, "Well, you can miss one more day." No, I can't. So I go to school anyway. But and then some, you should really come to class because you're missing out on so much.
Okay, a little later on we're going to talk about which way do you side, with those that reinforce or those that don't. In my latest book titled, To Be Popular or Smart, we also interviewed students across the country, those that had good friends and those that had bad friends. And I just want to share with you an excerpt. One of the brothers named Lamont, who was one of the ones influenced by the negative peer group. This is what Lamont had to say. "I can get an A on any test I want. It doesn't matter whether it's biology, algebra, English, history, drafting, or gym. In some of my classes, there have been 5 tests, and I've gotten 5 different grades. I've gotten an A, B, C, D, and F. It's hard being serious the entire year. I got too many distractions to be in honors classes. But I don't want my partners to tease me and call me a fag. I usually sit in the back of the class and clown. And sometimes I don't go to class at all. I'm tight with my friends, and the women love me. I don't see the guys respecting the nerds or the women chasing after them. I would like to get A's or B's. It would really get my parents off my back. But I can't be serious for 40 straight weeks. Plus, I'd rather be down with my partners."
So Lamont gives us some insight into people who have fallen victim into the ways and the values and the practices of people in the black peer group. And what's important to understand is that Lamont knew that he had the ability, just like the people in the skit did. He had the ability to get A's on all of his tests if he wanted to. And what he did was he made a choice. This is the key word here. He made a choice not to. So what we come to find out is that a lot of the people who folded under the pressure of the black peer group end up coming to the realization that it was just a short-term satisfaction, right? You can be the man in high school, you can be popular, you can have a lot of fun, you can get the girls, you can get whatever, the guys, you can goof off, you can do a lot of that. In the short term, it's fun. In the long term, it didn't prepare a lot of people for life outside of that social setting, where you have responsibilities and other things that you have to deal with, and you have skills that needed to be developed. And that time should have been developing, or could have been used to be developing other sets of skills, right? And that also comes with, like what he talked about in the beginning, the parents not being involved as well. And so when people come to these realizations, what happens is they're confronted with an issue there, and it's a major issue in a lot of people's lives. That, like Lamont did, that they didn't choose choices that would set them up later in life. And so a lot of them resort to finding any and every excuse underneath the sun to blame the system, blame the white man, blame the government, anything that you can think of, right? They could find. And so at the age of 17, for me, what I did was it was another one of those things that hit me. Like, okay, life is getting ready to get serious. I'm getting ready to graduate high school, and there's nothing really planned out. Or I didn't have anything planned out at that time. But I knew it's getting ready to get serious. And so at that point, I had to make decisions. And I would say, fortunate for me, I looked at it as something that I can do and that was under my control. And so, like I said, you can go any direction, one of two directions, I should say. You can look for all the ways in which you can blame people, and believe me, you can find it. You seek and ye shall find. You will find it. And you can go the other way of looking for all the reasons and all the ways and where there's opportunities, where there's possibilities, and seek and ye shall find. It'll be there too. And like I said, fortunately for me, I looked that direction. And so you can start to see all the opportunities that are there. And for a lot of people out there, a lot of you out there, especially the younger folks, it takes a lot of will, determination to break away from a lot of those norms and the peer pressure of the group and the friends that are around. And there's a price to pay for that too, right? You may not be associated with all the people that once were friends, but the good news is there's billions of people on the planet, and you'll find friends somewhere else, right? If that has to be the case. But you cannot let someone else's path and the things that they want to do dictate your life, and you have a life that ends up being full of regrets, right? And so we need to take these lessons in and understand, reflect, and find out which of these cultural norms and practices are leading us into directions that we want to go. If being a rapper, being popular, being good with the women and all those things, if that's something that somebody wants to do, then the black peer group and the black culture is the proper vehicle to go, right? Because it'll take you there. And there's people who can go off and become successful in there too. You can be a basketball player, a sports person who's in entertainment. You know, you can do that. But if that's not the vehicle, and you don't want to have to feel pressured to do that, then you have to realize that there's a lot of things that have to be, you know, separated from, right? So this is very important for a lot of us to sit and reflect. Pay attention and see the environment that we're in, the people that we're around, the practices, the norms, the things that we value, the things that we watch, the things that we listen to. All these things are creating your character and your personality, right? And then the good thing is that if that's not the character or personality that you want, you can always change it. The practices and the norms can always be changed. You can put yourself in different vehicles that bring you to different destinations. But you have to understand your power to choose, right? So my name is Brooklyn St. Michael, and I want to thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one.